Your body has been begging for this moment all day. The second your head sinks into the pillow, you expect relief. Instead, something clicks on inside your skull like a switch flipping the wrong direction. Suddenly, you're replaying a conversation from Tuesday, rehearsing an email you haven't even written yet. Your jaw is tight, your heart taps a little faster than it should for someone lying perfectly still in the dark. Nothing dangerous is happening. No one is in danger, and yet some part of you is on duty, wide awake, refusing to clock out. Here's the idea most people never consider. What if exhaustion and alertness aren't opposites? What if your brain can be utterly drained and fully on guard at the exact same moment? That's not a contradiction. That's two completely different systems running on two completely different schedules. And tonight, neither one asked for your permission. Picture a security guard stationed inside your skull. Most of the day he's relaxed, barely watching the monitors. But the moment the lights go down and the building goes quiet, he suddenly leans forward. Quiet to an old-fashioned guard doesn't mean safe. Quiet means something could be approaching that he hasn't spotted yet. So he switches into high alert, scanning, listening, refusing to look away at the exact moment you're desperately trying to switch off. This is closer to what's actually happening in your nervous system at night. And here's the scientific detail almost nobody explains clearly. This guard doesn't only respond to real threats, he responds to uncertainty, unfinished thoughts, unresolved tension from hours earlier. To a brain wired for survival, an unanswered question can register almost like an open door. If you've ever wondered why your mind seems to save its loudest arguments for 1 a.m., this is part of the answer. Daytime keeps that guard distracted. Meetings, traffic, conversations, screens. Nighttime removes every distraction at once. The silence doesn't calm him. It gives him room to finally speak. So if it isn't simply too much stress, and it isn't a flaw in who you are, what is actually keeping that guard at his post long after the danger has passed? That's the question worth answering. And it's exactly where we're headed next. That guard at his post has a name in neuroscience, even if you've never met him face to face. Deep inside your brain sits a small almond-shaped structure whose entire job is threat detection. Scientists call it the amygdala. You don't need to remember the name. You only need to understand the job. It scans everything you experience and asks one relentless question. Is this safe? Most of the time, that question gets answered quietly, in the background, without you noticing. But for some people, especially after long stretches of stress, uncertainty, or emotional overload, that question starts getting asked too often, too loudly, at the wrong hours. This is what scientists call hypervigilance, a nervous system stuck slightly too alert, slightly too often, even when nothing is actually wrong. Think of it less like a guard now and more like a smoke detector mounted in your kitchen. A good detector saves your life when there's an actual fire, but a detector that's been triggered too many times, by burnt toast, by steam, by nothing at all, starts going off at the smallest provocation. It isn't broken. It's recalibrated itself toward caution. And once that recalibration happens, it doesn't reset just because you climb into bed and turn off the lights. This is the part that changes everything. Insomnia, at its core, isn't usually a sleep problem. It's an arousal problem. Your body's stress response system, the same one that should quiet down at night, stays partially activated. Your heart rate, your muscle tension, your breathing, all stay tuned slightly higher than they need to be, like a car idling in the driveway with the engine still running. And here's something most people never realize: your brain doesn't separate real danger from unresolved tension. To a nervous system on high alert, an unfinished argument, a looming deadline, or a worry you haven't let yourself fully feel during the day can register almost the same way a genuine threat would. The detector doesn't know the difference, it just knows something feels unresolved, and unresolved feels unsafe. So your mind keeps circling back, trying to finish what the day left incomplete. Not because you're weak, not because you're broken. Because some part of your brain is still trying to do its job, just at the wrong moment with the wrong information. But this raises a deeper question. If this response is supposed to be occasional, why does it start showing up every single night? Why does a system built for emergencies start treating an ordinary Tuesday like a 5-alarm fire? That answer lies in how your brain learns. And that's exactly where we go next. Here's something rarely said out loud. Your brain isn't malfunctioning at night, it's learning. And once you understand what it's learning, the pattern starts to make sense. Picture a hiking trail through a forest. The first time someone walks it, the ground resists. Branches block the way, every step takes effort. But walk that trail night after night and something changes. The grass flattens, a path appears, not because anyone designed it, but because repetition carved it into existence. Your nervous system works almost the same way. Every time you climb into bed wired, replaying the day, your brain registers a pattern. Bed equals alertness. It doesn't ask whether that pairing makes sense, it simply notices what happened again and again at the same hour. And a brain built to learn from repetition does exactly what it's designed to do. It learns. This is neuroplasticity. Your brain's lifelong ability to strengthen pathways that get used often and let unused ones fade. It's the same mechanism behind learning a language or remembering a road home without thinking. It's neutral. It simply reinforces whatever keeps happening. And this changes how most people see their own sleeplessness. You didn't decide to link your bed with alertness. No one does that on purpose. It happened the way a trail forms. Quietly, through repetition you never noticed. Your brain wasn't betraying you, it was doing its job a little too well, in the wrong direction. Think about driving a familiar route home, barely aware of each turn. That ease isn't relaxation, it's automation. The pathway became so well traveled it runs almost by itself. The same automation can apply to alertness. After enough repetition, your nervous system doesn't need to consciously switch on at bedtime. It just does. This explains why willpower alone rarely fixes the problem. You can't outthink an automatic pathway by telling it to stop. Trails don't disappear because you decide they should. But here's the hopeful part. If a pathway can be learned through repetition, it can also be reshaped through different repetition. Trails fade when unused. New ones form when new patterns repeat enough to matter. So if your brain learned this without your permission, can it unlearn it the same way without force or struggle? That answer begins the moment we look at what actually helps a nervous system find its way back to safety. Here's something that surprises most people. You cannot force your brain to sleep. Sleep isn't a switch you flip through effort. It's closer to a tide. It arrives on its own, and the harder you try to drag it in early, the more it seems to pull away. This is why just relax almost never works. Telling an alert nervous system to calm down is like shouting at someone to stop being startled. The instruction itself adds tension. Effort and striving are activating, not calming. So the more you fight your sleeplessness, the more awake that part of your brain becomes, convinced something must be wrong if you're working this hard to fix it. What actually shifts things isn't effort, it's safety. Your nervous system has two main modes. One prepares you for action, faster heartbeat, tighter muscles, racing thoughts. The other allows rest, digestion, repair. Scientists call this second mode parasympathetic activation. Think of it less as flipping a switch and more like a thermostat slowly easing a room from too warm to comfortable. It doesn't happen instantly. It happens gradually once the right signals are in place, and those signals matter more than people realize. Slow extended exhales tell your body the emergency has passed. A longer exhale than inhale is one of the few voluntary actions that directly nudges this calming system into gear. Dim light reduces alertness signals to the brain. Predictable routines teach your nervous system what comes next, and predictability itself feels like safety. None of these are tricks. They're signals repeated consistently, slowly retraining a system that learned alertness the same gradual way. This is also where practices like guided relaxation or self-hypnosis make sense. Not as magic, but as structured ways of feeding your nervous system steady cues of safety until it believes them. No single night will undo a pattern built over months or years, but consistency speaks a language the nervous system understands. So the goal was never to force sleep. It's to gently convince a hypervigilant brain that the threat has passed, and that conviction builds slowly, signal by signal, until rest stops feeling like something you chase and starts feeling like something that simply arrives. So let's return to where this started. a body completely worn out, a mind that refuses to follow. For a long time, that contradiction probably felt like proof that something was wrong with you, some flaw, some failure to simply switch off like everyone else seems to. But that's not what's actually happening. A part of your nervous system learned, through repetition you never consciously chose, that staying alert felt safer than letting go. That isn't malfunction, that's adaptation. Your brain did exactly what brains are built to do. It noticed a pattern and it kept it running, long after the pattern stopped being useful. This distinction matters more than it might seem. A broken system needs to be fixed. A learned system can be retaught. Those are two completely different stories, and only one of them leaves room for change. Hypervigilance was never a personal weakness. It was protection that overstayed its purpose, doing its job a little too faithfully in a context where it was no longer needed. And once you see it this way, something shifts. The nightly battle stops feeling like a referendum on your character. It becomes something closer to a signal, information about a nervous system that's still calibrated for an earlier, harder season, waiting for enough evidence of safety to recalibrate again. That recalibration won't happen in a single night, and it was never going to. Real change in the nervous system rarely announces itself loudly. It arrives quietly through repetition. The same patient way the original pattern was built in the first place. Understanding why this happens is not a small consolation prize. It's the actual first step. You cannot retrain a system you don't yet understand, and most people spend years fighting a pattern they were never taught to recognize. You now know something most people never learn about their own mind. Your brain isn't working against you. It's simply waiting for enough proof that it's finally allowed to stand down. If this changed the way you see your own mind, consider subscribing. In the next videos, we'll keep exploring how the brain learns safety, how emotional regulation actually works, and what helps the nervous system settle into deeper, more restorative rest.